Mexico voted on Sunday in the first judicial elections aimed at democratizing justice. And Venezuela's indigenous communities voted on Sunday in the second stage of the legislative elections 2025 with a turnout of over 95%. And in Palestine, Israel killed over 40 people in attacks on 8 distribution centers in Gaza. Hello, welcome from the South. I'm Luis Alberto Matos from the teleSUR studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. At least 99 million Mexicans were called to vote on Sunday in the first judicial elections aimed at democratizing justice. At 6 p.m. local time, the district boards began to receive the election packages and begin the counting of votes in this unprecedented election to choose the members of the judiciary. According to the National Electoral Institute, the first counts will begin between 7:30 and 8 p.m. local time. After a thorough review of the ballot boxes, the votes will be classified and distributed to the different entities. The Institute reported that the counting of votes from the election would take a maximum of 10 days. And in this context, the President of Mexico, Claudia Sheinbaum, exercised her right to vote early on Sunday at the polling station located at the Museum of Art of the Secretariat of the Treasury in the historic center of Mexico City. The President was accompanied during the democratic exercise by her husband, Jesus Maria Tarriba. Afterwards, while being greeted by the population at the site, the head of state exclaimed, "Long live democracy," and showed her thumb stained with indelible ink. This was Sheinbaum's first vote as head of the federal executive, the first vote ever cast by a woman president in the country. Similarly, former President Andrés Manuel López Obrador exercised his right to vote at a polling station located in the municipality of Palenque instead of Chiapas. The former Mexican leader was greeted with hugs and recognition by citizens. After participating in the democratic process, López Obrador highlighted the importance of the election for a fair judiciary in the country.
Elección histórica. Nunca en la historia de nuestro país.
A historic election. Never in the history of our country. The people, in a direct manner, had decided and had the right to elect judges, magistrates, ministers of the judiciary. It is the first time in history. That is why I wanted to participate in these historic elections.
In our news, in Venezuela, the legislative elections of indigenous peoples concluded a process aimed at dignifying their ancestral rights through the vote. With the participation of more than 95% of the indigenous spokesmen and spokeswomen, 3 indigenous deputies were elected to the National Assembly and 9 legislators to the legislative councils of 9 states with indigenous population. With the election of these representatives, the 285 seats of the National Assembly are complemented, guaranteeing the direct and traditional representation of indigenous peoples. This electoral process evidences Venezuela's commitment to inclusion and respect for cultural and political diversity, allowing its indigenous communities to weave their own destiny from their roots. In this context, in the state of Zulia, the Wayu was one of the 5 indigenous peoples participating on Sunday's electoral process. In Maracaibo, Wayu delegate Luis González stressed on the importance of the elections for Venezuelan indigenous communities.
El tema de los voceros indígenas son electos.
The indigenous spokespersons are elected according to traditions and customs as native peoples and as indigenous peoples in each of the 5 peoples that make up the state of Zulia. At a national level, each of the peoples are also holding elections according to their tradition and customs.
Es de suma importancia porque marca la diferencia orgánica.
It is of utmost importance because it marks the organic difference of each of our peoples according to our law, according to our customs and traditions. a differential process because we are an organized people, a conscious people, a people who believe in a process of inclusion. And from there, these differentiated processes from the traditional ones carried by the Constitution are vital since we indigenous peoples organize ourselves for a more organic attention.
Y para una atención más orgánica.
In Poland, polls have closed on Sunday's runoff presidential election, a tight race with major implications for the country's role in Europe. Voting ended at 9 p.m. local time in the election where Warsaw's pro-European mayor, Rafał Trzaskowski, an ally of the centrist government, was facing off against nationalist historian Karol Nawrocki. A first round of voting was held on May 18th, with Trzaskowski winning by a razor-thin margin of 31% against Nawrocki's 30%, which triggers Sunday's second round. Exit polls suggested the race is tied to call despite Trzaskowski declaring himself winner in the aftermath. The State Electoral Commission is expected to release the final vote count on Monday, though official result could be known sooner. Now, for first break coming up, remember you can join us on TikTok to find news formats, updates, and much more. We'll be right back. Stay with us. Welcome back. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Venezuela issued a maximum travel alert to all nationals, assuring that the U.S. territory is not safe for any migrant after multiple violations to human rights of President Trump's administration.
The Bolivarian government of Venezuela, through the Ministry of the People's Power for Foreign Affairs, issued a maximum level travel alert to all Venezuelan nationals. The United States is a dangerous country where human rights do not exist for migrants. If you are considering traveling there, cancel your plans immediately. If you are already residing in the U.S., consider leaving as soon as possible. The evidence is overwhelming. The U.S. poses a real threat to the life, freedom and dignity of Venezuelans and all Latin Americans.
La dignidad de los venezolanos y de cualquier latinoamericano.
And Venezuela welcomed the Speaker of the Iranian Parliament, Mohammad Bagher Ghalibaf, with the aim of strengthening bilateral relations. Venezuelan Foreign Minister Ivan Hill welcomed the head of the Iranian Consultative Assembly at Simon Bolivar International Airport in Maiquetía. Iran and Venezuela celebrated 75 years of diplomatic relations, which were deepened by Commander Hugo Chavez and President Nicolas Maduro. Both countries have signed at least 300 joint development agreements in strategic areas such as energy, oil, gas, and tourism, among others. And as part of his visit, the President of the Consultative Assembly of Iran, Mohammad Bagher Ghalibaf, participated in the presentation of a floral offering at the sarcophagus of Liberator Simon Bolivar. With this act, Venezuela reaffirms its diplomacy of peace and brotherhood with Iran. The Persian delegation will fulfill an extensive agenda of activities in the South American nation to strengthen the strategic alliances between both nations. In the Dominican Republic, the Broad Front movement led a protest in Santiago de los Caballeros to demand urgent measures from the government of Luis Abinader to reduce the high cost of living. The municipal leaders of the Broad Front reiterated that the mobilization seeks to pressure the government to curb inflation and alleviate the economic burden faced by Dominican families. In addition to economic demands, protesters also raised their voices against other problems affecting neighborhoods in the region, such as the lack of drinking water, constant power outages, and the poor condition of streets and sidewalks. The Broad Front warned that the protests will continue if the government does not provide clear answers to their demands.
En el Frente Amplio hemos decidido una línea de movilización.
We in the Broad Front have decided on a line of mobilization to demand from the government effective measures to reduce the cost, the price of food and medicine. Basically because this increase in the prices of the basic food basket and medicines is significantly affecting the life of the population, of the family, and translates into obstacles to the mental rights, food, health. We have been carrying out rallies, protests in different communities. We started in Greater Santo Domingo, had a moment in San Cristobal, and today we are in Santiago.
The Russian delegation arrived on Sunday in Turkey to participate in the second round of direct negotiations with the Ukrainian government. Russian Foreign Minister said the second phase of talks is scheduled for June 2nd in Istanbul. The added that Moscow has drafted a memorandum is the most important of the root causes of crisis and conflict. It is hoped that Russia and Ukraine will engage in dialogue and reach an agreement. Foreign Minister held a telephone conversation with U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio on Sunday to discuss the conflict in Ukraine and the upcoming results of talks. In this regard, Lavrov emphasized that both officials exchanged views on various initiatives related to the political solution to the Russian-Ukrainian crisis. Furthermore, the Russian authorities stressed Moscow's willingness to exchange views with Kiev to move toward a possible peace agreement that would end more than 3 years of hostilities. And Russian authorities denounced terrorist explosions that caused derailments over the weekend. The first attack occurred at 10:50 p.m. at a railway in the Vigo district of the Brianza region, where the structure of a road bridge was and the debris from a passenger train. The incident left 7 people dead and 66 wounded. In addition, at 3 a.m. on Sunday, a bridge was also blown up in Kursk Oblast, leaving an engineer and his 2 assistants injured. In this context, the Russian Investigative Committee classified the bridge collapses as terrorist attacks, with official representative Svetlana Petenko informing they were deliberately blown up. And Russia denounces drone attack on military units in southeast Siberia by the Ukrainian regime. This way, the local authorities of the Russian region of Irkutsk reported that the unmanned vehicle attack was aimed at the town of Sretny. They also noted that a building in the locality of Novomalstinsk was attacked. The Ministry of Emergencies and National Guardsmen said that the drones were launched from a truck, which was already blocked, and Federal Security Service officers were on the scene. And the Russian government also denounced the attack by Ukrainian unmanned drones against Russian military airfields. The Ministry of Defense stated that the attacks were carried out against several Russian provinces, including Murmansk, Irkutsk, Ivanovo, Ryazan, and Amur. The ministry also emphasized that the attack was repelled and no injuries or fatalities were reported. We now have our second and functional break coming up. Before we invite you to visit our Facebook page at teleSUR English, there you'll be able to watch our top stories, special live coverage, and much more. Follow our page and activate the notification button to stay up to date on the world's most recent events. Final break, and I'll be right back with more. Welcome back. Gaza aid distribution points have become death traps after a U.S. company took over their management in the Strip, despite the refusal of Palestinian authorities and several humanitarian organizations. Since then, the Israeli occupation forces have perpetrated 2 consecutive massacres, killing more than 40 people and injuring 200 others. In this context, the Palestinian resistance factions have described the attacks as evidence of the fascist nature of the occupation and another sign of the ongoing war crimes carried out by the Zionist regime in conjunction with the U.S. administration. The events take place in the midst of a catastrophic crisis of the health system, with overcrowded operating rooms and a severe shortage of surgical supplies, blood units, and intensive care materials, which drastically reduces the chances of survival of the wounded.
We don't want aid from them. They are killing us and they won't give us aid. We want a solution. Do you think someone throwing a missile at us will give us aid? They want to take my son to kill him. We have lost enough. We want a solution and to live in freedom. We want to work and eat with our money. We don't want aid from Israel. We don't want our children to die. What, you give me food and then kill me with a missile? What did I gain from this food? You feed me and then you kill me? No, we don't want that. We want our children to live as they were before. And for my son to go to school and come back home and find a plate of lentils. I will be satisfied with that. I want him to come back safely from school. I don't want anything. And this is what I hope from God, that they find a solution. I don't want more than that.
Human rights organizations on behalf of Palestinian prisoners are denouncing violence by Israeli Megiddo prison administration, especially against minor prisoners. According to the organizations, the prisoners are subjected to systematic malnutrition and repeated beatings. Lawyers claim that the prison administration frequently denies inmates the legally stipulated outdoor time of 1 hour a day. They also pointed out that illnesses are on the rise among the inmate population due to poor hygiene, lack of ventilation, and medical treatment. And in Yemen, the armed forces say they have successfully carried out military operations against Israeli targets in support of the Palestinian people and in rejection of Tel Aviv's genocide in Gaza. Army spokesman said the attack was carried out against the Ben Gurion airport in the occupied city of Jaffa, disrupting its normal operation. They also welcomed the extent of of the partial blockade of air traffic, stressing that they are aiming at completely disrupting operations in that airport. They also urged Israel to abide by the Yemeni authorities' ban or stop the aggression against people in the Gaza Strip and to lift the siege imposed on the enclave. Climate activist Greta Thunberg and 11 other activists set sail for Gaza on Sunday afternoon in a boat with the aim of breaking the Israeli blockade against the Gaza Strip. The Madeline sailboat, operated by the activist group Freedom Flotilla Coalition, set sail from the Sicilian port of Catania in Italy. Activists will attempt to reach the Gaza coast in order to deliver aid and raise awareness among the international community about the humanitarian crisis being experienced by its inhabitants. A previous attempt to reach Gaza by sea in May failed after another of the group's ships, the Conscience, was attacked by drones in international waters off the coast of Malta. The group blamed Israel for the attack.
Ask us, why are you doing this? This is a suicide mission. My answer is this question. You should not ask us this question. You should turn to Israel and to its allies and ask them, why are you doing this? Why are you killing children? Why are you starving them? Why have you been ethnically cleansing Palestinians for 80 years?
And we are doing this because no matter what odds we are against, we have to keep trying. Because the moment we stop trying is when we lose our humanity. And no matter how dangerous this mission is, it is nowhere near as dangerous as the silence of the entire world in the face of a live-streamed genocide.
In Italy, in Rome, and in several other cities, people demonstrated against a new public safety law promoted by the ultra-right-wing government of Giorgia Meloni. Demonstrators denounced that the law, which passed last week, curtails civil liberties and criminalizes social protests. The law promoted by the Brothers of Italy party includes harsh penalties for protesters, extension of mass surveillance, and restrictions on NGOs and migrant groups. The new law has been denounced as repressive and designed to please Meloni's voters, and it will also protect police officers involved in cases of violence. And in France, 2 people were killed and over 500 were arrested overnight at riots following the 5-0 win of the Paris Saint-Germain team over Inter Milan Champions League final in Munich, Germany. A total of 11.5 million people tuned in across France to watch the game, and although the majority of fans celebrated peacefully, the Interior Ministry said that 491 people were arrested in Paris after crowds converged on the Champs-Élysées Avenue and clashes broke out with the police. Across France, a total of 559 people were arrested. The Paris Saint-Germain team was to hold a victory parade on the Champs-Élysées on Sunday, with tens of thousands of supporters expected to gather to catch a glimpse at their returning heroes. At least 30 people have died in India's northeast after monsoon rains caused floods and landslides over the weekend. The authorities reported on Sunday the death of at least 8 people in the Assam state and 9 more in neighboring Arunachal Pradesh, many of them buried under earth and debris dislodged by the downpour. In addition, 3 members of one family were killed in a mudslide in Guwahati on Friday, as heavy rains led to flooding in many areas of the city, leading to long power outages and prompting authorities to shut schools and colleges. The torrential rains have continued for 3 straight days, with the country's weather agency forecasting more downpours in the region in the coming days, prompting authorities to issue a red alert for several northeastern districts. In Costa Rica, authorities have warned about the proximity of a new tropical wave with heavy rains to hit the country shortly. The National Meteorological Institute said the weather phenomenon will impact the Central Pacific, South Pacific, and northern regions, and that the rain will be accompanied by thunderstorms and increased humidity levels. This is the 4th tropical wave of the season, which coincides with hundreds of reports of flooding throughout the country due to seasonal rainfall over the last days. Therefore, the authorities warn the effects will be greater. At least we have come to the end of this news brief. You can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. So join us on our social media, Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok. For TeleSUR English, I'm Luis Alberto Matos. Thanks for watching.